I know what you're thinking. That's 2 Dark Souls videos in a short time frame. Last time I had a bit more to say about for the Dark Soul than I could fit into one sentence. So here's a slightly more serious video with all I want to say. Anyway, unlike the last rendition of FishyRice Music Reviews, this one will have just a bit more substance and not just be a compilation of musical terms and random words. Now before getting to the track itself, let's just talk about where this track comes from. Now after defeating Gale, after countless attempts, rather than sitting down and resting after this massive journey that I just completed, I jolted up and immediately went to listen to Gale's theme itself. And what's this track? Now I was still full of adrenaline, and I couldn't exactly remember every part of Gale's theme during the fight. I know, shocker, I couldn't remember the exact parts of music after narrowly escaping by my teeth on my 50th attempt. Anyway, I just assumed this little gem of a track was just the latter part of Gale's theme, and it is very similar, but after another run, nothing. I couldn't hear it anywhere. So after a little digging, I ran across a post on Reddit asking the same question I was thinking. At this point I was pretty certain it wasn't in the game, and apparently it's for a PS4 theme called Transitory
Lands.
I'm not a PlayStation owner, so I didn't know this initially, and I would have loved it if the track was actually in the game. Anyway, music. Now where would be better to start than the first note in key signature? This track is in F minor, I think. I'm a guitarist and I can't find the sheet music for this, so I can't check. Which is oh so close to being the E minor that the game's opening track, Dark Souls 3, is in. Although this doesn't really get in the way of comparisons. The track starts off with a lone piano, before a rest followed by the violin. Now I love this sort of instrumentation, and it is quite common for most solo violin works to have an accompanying piano, and this dynamic works very well. Some of the time these pieces can be quite dry, with the violin naturally taking the spotlight, with the piano just providing basic accompaniment. Not saying these are bad, but just drier than the alternative. However, what others do is a true duet between the piano and violin, with each instrument providing counterpoint for each other, and effortlessly bouncing off of each other's melodies. This track is a dance. A dance between someone who has lost themselves and the one to oppose them. Now although this track isn't actually in the game, I'm going to treat it like it is. These two main instruments bouncing off of each other can represent the player and Gale himself. And in my eyes, I'd assign the piano to Gale. Let me explain. Throughout the track, the piano plays these long, sweeping sequences, which are intimidating and full of chaos, representing the growing abyss of humanity festering beneath his flesh. On top of this, the wide range and polyphony of the piano can convey the menacing size of Gale as well as the challenge he serves. On the other hand, the strings feel much more stable, and much like the fight, each note feels coordinated and perfectly placed with and around the piano, much like each coordinated attack and roll within the fight. Unlike the piano, it is much harder to get the same polyphony on a violin, so, other than double stops, other strings are added to deepen the texture of this melody. Now although this is a bit of a stretch, this assisted polyphony can show how when faced with Gale, although it is blasphemous, assistance may be required. Now if you have listened to For the Dark Soul, you might be thinking that I've missed something out, and there's a reason for that. Yep, that's right, vocals. Now I have a few ideas what this could represent, but the biggest thing that came to mind is the painting woman whom Gale serves. Now I'm not going to go into all the theories, but for convenience I'll be calling her Aria. Now it would somewhat make sense that this voice could represent Aria's voice. Although Aria has no knowledge of Gale losing his mind, nor his death, it was Aria who Gale was fighting for, and to an extent, she's the one you're fighting for. Bringing back the blood of the Dark Soul to paint her new world. Ash. Now before I conclude, I thought I'd talk about the elephant in the room, Gale's actual theme. In Gale's third phase, it becomes near identical to For the Dark Soul. Now between these two tracks there is a few very key differences. In Gale's theme, the strings are playing what the piano is in For the Dark Soul, albeit much higher. Gale's theme focuses much heavier on the vocals, with a full choir plus solo vocals, which I think is the composer herself, but I'm not too sure. Gale's instrumentation is also much broader, with timpani, other assorted percussion, brass, vocals, and strings, to name a few, compared with the more stripped down, exposed feeling of For the Dark Soul, with only piano, strings, and vocals. With this, there is one very big comparison that comes to my mind, and that is the game's title track, with Gale's theme acting as the main body of the title track and For the Dark Soul acting as the more stripped down final section of the title track. Dark Souls is a series about cycles, and a never-ending quest to end those cycles. More prevalent in Dark Souls 3, we learn about the countless others to link the flame before us, telling us that the period of peace brought about from the linking of the first flame is nothing but a temporary fix for an everlasting problem. From the final moments of the game back to the very start, we can see that these cycles continue no matter how many times we die, or no matter how many endings we reach. And this is one of the many reasons that these three games are my favorites. Now before I leave you, I would like to thank all of you for watching my last video. It's been my best performing video and I couldn't be happier to see that you've enjoyed it. From new viewers to old, I appreciate all of you and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you.